On today's episode, it's one of Robin Williams' final acting performances, and you thought your seasonal depression couldn't get any worse. We watched A Merry Friggin' Christmas today on Nothing Yule's?
It's Noel Thing Movies. I'm not making another logo.
Is it Noel Thing
Yes,
Movies?
it has been for like the last 2 years.
Oh, fuck, I thought it was Yule's. All right, shit. Well,
I'm not making another logo.
Take two. Sorry about that. We watched A Merry Friggin' Christmas today on Noel Thing Movies.
There we go.
Have yourself a merry friggin' Christmas. A yuppie hates his dad. Robin Williams died, and we are all still sad. Have yourself a merry friggin' Christmas.
Oh, there's 2 verses, is there?
Santa's smelling weird. Think I see dried vomit that stuck to his beard. Here we are in our golden days.
Happy golden days.
Happy podcast days.
Oh, not so far.
Of glee. Soon, my friend.
Take your hands off my shoulder.
We'll be older men. Will we podcast then?
We'll see.
We'll see.
Hey, how about that?
Through the years.
Oh my God.
We've watched a lot of movies. This one made me groan. Still, it's better made than friggin' Pops alone. So let's discuss A Merry Friggin' Christmas now.
All right. Well, that's the title track of our debut Christmas album that we're going to be putting out.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're launching Patreon this week, and that's going to be the first thing that you can download.
All the tunes from all the episodes where we've composed a little
That's
ditty.
actually a great idea. I should cut that. I should cut a Christmas album that's parody songs on all of the movies that we have covered, Jameson.
All of them? There's like...
I wasn't going to do that, but you've put the idea in my head, and you know what?
Haven't you had enough ideas?
You know what?
What?
You've given me the greatest gift of all. Inspiration.
I see.
Well, welcome back. However you wish to self-identify to Noel Thing Movies, as my co-host reminded me just minutes ago is what we called it. I thought it was Nothing Yule's, but now that I'm saying it out loud, that's garbage. You're absolutely right. It is Noel Thing Movies.
I seem to recall that we were, I think during an episode, we were like, what are we going to call our Christmas
We were flipping
episodes?
a coin on it, absolutely.
And it was like,
for sure,
Nothing Yule's, and then I said Noel Thing Movies, and you were just like, fucking whatever.
Whatever. Yeah.
Back when we were The Fuck Is This, we called it something like the non-denominational,
exactly.
all-inclusive Winterfest.
Have a reasonably acceptable 24 consecutive hours. Yeah, that's what we were calling it. Yeah, and that sentiment still reigns true. But this is the podcast where we go through an actor's filmography and choose the most anonymous and culturally untalked about movies that they've made and decide whether or not they've got a certain something or if they're just a whole lot of nothing. I'm Kaz Lesgard.
Man, just banger after banger. You are on fire today, my friend.
I am.
I'm Jameson Rafter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did nothing. You said you barely wrote any notes for this movie, and I think you put all your creative juices towards, this little song, this little ditty of yours.
100%, Jameson. See, I don't want to reveal my hand a little too early here in this poker game, but I sat down, watched this movie. Today we're talking about 2014's A Merry Friggin' Christmas. I sat down, I started writing notes for this, and then an odd thing happened. I kind of just liked the movie. I kind of just liked it. I kind of just enjoyed it.
You did,
and then I let the season sort of
wash over
me like a warm glow.
So you're in the Christmas spirit,
I
is
let
what you're
it
saying.
wrap me up. I am in the Christmas spirit. I'm in the midst of rehearsals for a theatrical production of It's a Wonderful Life. I get to play the most seasonal character of all, of course, Mr. Potter. So, I'm really I'm letting the Christmas spirit guide me right now.
Whereas I'm fully aware that it's still November 25th.
Hey.
Yeah.
It's never too early.
So, yeah.
They got me. They got me,
A Merry friggin' Christmas. What do you got? What do you got for this, Kaz?
What do I got for this? Well, as I said earlier, this is the first movie that was released, sadly, after the death of the actor that we're going to discuss today, the legendary, irreplaceable,
indeed,
dare I say, magical.
They tried both with that Aladdin remake.
They truly did, yes. Mr. Robin Williams. And look how well that worked out for the guy who played the genie.
Yeah.
Yes, the exact same legacy of those two actors.
Yeah. But yeah, Robin Williams. That's the second time we've done a Robin Williams Christmas movie.
Yes. This one, believe it or not, is a little less weird. I think the last.
You think? Oh.
Yeah, Noel, directed by Chaz Palminteri. I believe Robin Williams. He doesn't play a ghost, right? He plays like
Spoiler alert for if anyone was itching to see Noel. Do a little watch before they listen to our episode of the podcast.
There's three different plots in that movie. I'm only going to spoil the plot of one of them. But he's not a ghost. He's like an old man in a bed who realizes that Susan Sarandon is going to commit suicide, so he,
astral projects?
Yes! He astral projects as a younger man outside of his body, and they, almost have a romance, but then he realizes, no, I'm an old man in a bed. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, she won't kiss me. Her lips will go right through. Yes, this is the second Robin Williams Christmas movie. Not the second Robin Williams movie we've done, because, of course, he also showed up uncredited in Christopher Reeve's animated film
classic.
Everyone's hero, everybody's hero. I forget. Never will remember.
It's a real Noel thing, nothing Yuli's thing.
Yes. I feel like for people of our generation, Robin Williams was one of, if not the first actor we ever identified watching movies as a movie star. That's for a lot of people. He's all that's the guy. That's this guy that I'm seeing in everything. I know he's the voice of the genie. I know he's Mrs. Doubtfire. Yeah. I know he's Mr. Jumanji. I recognize him.
His death was the very first time a celebrity death ever really got to me, where I had to take pause and be like, oh man.
Yeah.
Because he was such a seminal presence throughout most of my life up until that point. He had been in so many childhood classics that I loved, be it Aladdin or Jumanji or Mrs. Doubtfire. And then as I grew up and matured, I gravitated towards things like Good Will Hunting and Insomnia. He was a presence. He was a presence that you miss.
It felt like we grew up with him because he had all of these family-oriented classics that you had on when you were a kid. You pop it in the VHS and you watch them. And then as you get older, you realize, there was this adult R-rated side to him that was running concurrent with all the family stuff that he was doing. And he had this long string of stand-up specials for HBO.
I think my buddy had the DVD of the HBO special, one of the HBO specials, and it was, as soon as we finished watching it, we ran that DVD again. And just died laughing.
Was it live on Broadway?
Might have been, yeah.
I think that's the one of our generation that we watch a lot now. There are jokes from that have just worked their way into my consciousness. I don't even remember what the setup of the joke is, but at one point in time, because half of Robbie Williams' stand-up is just him doing voices.
Yeah.
It's just him making noises and sounds.
Having conversations with himself, and there's 9 people in the room.
There's at one point in time, he does something akin to come on now, it's all safe now, come on. And I find myself doing that on a weekly basis. If I'm trying to reach something on the top shelf, I'll bust out a come on now, it's all safe now, come on now. But that's what he does. He was a real brainworm.
Yeah, and just a physical tour de force as well, to the point where you could bottle that energy and power an entire town.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a great comic.
He was so iconic. You go back and you watch some of those stand-up specials and you really start to try and digest them, and you realize like every third bit that he does actually makes literally no sense. Like he's just sort of free-forming ideas off the top of his head. He'll be all like, hey Merle, how's it going? Oh, look over there, Blair. And you're like, ha ha ha. And then half a second later it's all like, wait, he just said nonsense.
Yeah, what was that?
What was he,
that part
what
again?
was he talking about? But he's talking so fast, and he's had such a strong...
Can you feel the music? Yes, I can feel the music in yours. And you're just like, you're trying to keep up with like, what are these synapses he's making in his head?
It doesn't matter because he's already moved on to the next 5 things. And it really doesn't matter.
Yeah. And that wasn't me doing a stereotypical Spanish Mexican accent. That was me doing Robin Williams'
We're all aware he wasn't without his controversies. He was a man that was beloved by most, but yes, he was known for doing some ethnic voices, and yes, he was quite known in the stand-up community as being quite a flagrant joke stealer. He, more than once, you will see stories on the internet of people saying, I came up and after his set, I went up and I punched him in the face because he just stole my bit. He stole his jokes, and but that's how he worked. He lived on the edge, and he heard something, and then it entered his brain. He's all like, oh, that's good. I'll put that away for later. And then he just did it. Yeah. And then he didn't realize, oh, that's theft. That's intellectual theft.
At one point, when everything else is in the ether, like it's like chances are it's just gonna, they're gonna cross paths like that again. Yeah.
But what would you say are like your like prime Robin Williams memories growing up? Like what was like the movie that was like in constant rotation for you?
Well, constant rotation, most likely Aladdin.
I mean, that's the big
one. That was the big one for me. But also like being of a certain age at that point, I would have to go to the theaters with my parents. So, like, there would just be these cases where I would just have these nice theater-going experiences with my dad.
Yeah.
So, like, it wasn't just so much that I really liked Jumanji. It's that we really liked Jumanji.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, to speak on that, I mean, like, there are certain actors that I didn't have to twist, like, my mom's arm to go see. Like, if Robin Williams was in something, she was always down to go check that out, which is how I convinced her to go see Patch Adams, and then later apologized for taking her to see Patch Adams.
Yeah.
I'm sure I liked that movie at the time, but I mean, we'll get there.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll probably just say on him as like the legacy that he was leaving is, like we're just gushing over the fact of how gifted of a comedian he was, but he can make you laugh, but he could also make you cry. And he's one of like the definitive examples of someone who could do that. Most likely better than anyone. And you wonder like, how can one talent be this gifted across so many projects?
Yeah, well, gifted definitely seems like the operative word. So, Robin Williams, born in Chicago, Illinois. He attended the Juilliard School of the Arts in 1973. His classmates were Mandy Patinkin, William Hurt, and, of course, his lifelong friend, Mr. Christopher Reeve. They were all in the same class together. He reportedly stunned both his teachers and classmates so thoroughly with his talent and his ability to inhabit characters, he was convinced by several instructors to leave Juilliard early because, quote, the school had nothing more to teach him. Like, he was a talent that could not be contained by the rigorous structure of the Juilliard technique.
We could only stamp this creative juice out of you, but also there's nothing we can teach you at this rate.
You're kind of already fully formed, and
you want to teach the class?
There's reports of of him coming in, and his instructor said in like the early days, I thought, who's this guy? He won't shut up. He's just like this like manic ball of energy. But then when they gave him like serious parts, like when they gave him roles in like Eugene O'Neill plays, like he stunned them. They were all like, wow, he just inhabited that character. He just became like an old man.
And I bet they couldn't wait to just be like, okay, class clown, let's actually give you some meat on this bone, and then I'm going to critique you. But here's how I'm going to treat this student. Raw talent, but maybe unrefined. But then they saw him in action, and it was just like, fuck.
Yeah, it's kind of better if it's raw talent. It's like it's like all those people out there that.
Well, now we can teach you structure and how to inhabit a character, and it's
I'm certain he learned things at Juilliard. One would hope it's a pricey school to go to, but I just thought that was a neat footnote where they just got to a point where like John Houseman was just all like, you should leave, you should go,
and I mean that in the best possible
way possible. Yeah, that does
Get
seem like
the hell out of here.
It does seem like a weird weird backhanded compliment. It's just like, Robin, we have nothing more to teach you. It's just like, really? I'm having a lot of fun here. I enjoy.
I paid for the whole semester.
No, it's time to go. It's time to go. The one thing Wikipedia didn't tell me is whether or not he like graduated from Juilliard or if he just left. If they just like, maybe they just like wrote him a note that there's like, this guy
got the honorary degree.
This guy, he got the this guy scholarship. But he began performing stand-up almost immediately after leaving Juilliard in 1976. His TV debut was on a 1977 revival of the classic sketch comedy program Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. His first film credit, this is interesting, is in a film titled Can I Do It Till I Need Glasses? Which is,
let me guess.
Which is a title that only makes sense
It's got to be like one of those like anti-masturbation projects.
Oh, it's not anti-masturbation. It's a title that only makes sense if you know that it is a follow-up film to a movie that is called If You Don't Stop It, You'll Go Blind. So you really need to watch those in succession to kind of get what the title is going for here. So this movie was basically just a collection of sexually suggestive comedy sketches.
Okay, that makes a little more sense.
Yeah, it's like a Kentucky Fried Movie type situation
right.
thing. Robin Williams was paid $150 to act in two of these sketches. One was as an attorney, and another one was as a redneck with a toothache. Both of his sketches got cut from the movie and didn't end up in them. But then, after he became famous, they re-edited the movie and they changed the marketing to make it seem...
Sure, the poster is just a big blown-up still photo of him, right?
Yeah, which caused Williams and his management to sue the distributor for false and misleading advertisement, which would not be the first time he got into a legal tete-a-tete with a studio that was putting him first and foremost.
Yeah, that quite famously came up in one of his more famous roles. I'm sure we'll get into.
We're going to get to that in a second, yeah. Williams appeared in the very short-lived, and by very short-lived, I mean 4 episodes of variety sketch show The Richard Pryor Show, one of the sort of like classic canceled way too soon programs. But his luck turned around very quickly when he was a last-minute replacement for a different actor on an episode of Happy Days, where he played a silly little alien named Mork.
Yep, and the rest is history.
And the rest is history, and that's the end of the podcast. Thank you. We'd like to thank Eddie Lamb.
On to the movie.
On to the movie. Mork was an immediate success, and it immediately spiraled into his own spin-off, which, of course, was Mork and Mindy, which lasted...
A one-episode appearance got the spin-off?
2 episodes.
2 episodes. Okay.
2 episodes. They brought him back for a second episode because he did so well. Understandably, he basically threw out all the written dialogue and basically improvised 85% of the thing. He was everyone was killing themselves laughing. And that led to another appearance, and then that led to Mork and Mindy, which lasted for 4 seasons. It was set in contemporary 70s time, even though Happy Days is set in the 50s. I don't know if they ever bothered to explain that.
He's an immortal alien, also.
Yeah, did you ever catch reruns of Mork and Mindy? I don't think I've ever seen an episode of that.
Never, no.
No, it's just kind of like a little past my time. I mean, I'm very aware of it.
Yeah, I'm sure if I had like TV Land back in the day, I probably would have caught maybe a bit of it as a curio.
I know Jonathan Winters appears as his son. And the whole deal is that, like, the alien genealogy is that children are older than their parents. So that's how they explained that. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm sure I'd enjoy it. I'm sure I've seen clips here or there. I know he ends every episode by talking to, like, the big giant head from his planet. Maybe I'm thinking of Third Rock. But he's talking to somebody.
Okay.
Every episode ended with him in a dark room, and he was... improving the moral of the episode.
Gotcha.
I don't know. But yeah, that's what made him a star. In between that, he appeared as the lead in his first movie, which of course was the 1980 film Popeye, directed by Robert Altman, where he played the eponymous Sailor Man.
Never seen it, but it's got a very interesting history to itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like, it started off I think as like a
like as a musical, but then
it is. It's kind of half a musical. It has like musical numbers in it. I haven't seen Popeye in a really long time.
I know the sets that they build for it are all practical, and they're all still set up somewhere in like Malta.
Yeah. So Popeye's Village is an actual tourist destination that you can go visit to in Malta. My family went on a family vacation when I was like 10, maybe older. But yeah, we went to Malta and we went to Popeye's Village, and that was probably the last time that I watched Popeye the movie. I haven't checked it out since then, but yeah, it's still there. They just built an entire seaside town on a cliffside. You can go to the big pit where Popeye fights the octopus at the end of the movie.
How popular do you think that tourist destination is now? Because that movie's pretty fucking old at this rate.
I don't know. It might get like some... It's basically for like the weird curios out there.
Yeah.
But I mean,
it's our 6th day here in Malta. What else is there to do?
I think I read somewhere once that Malta is also the home of the last remaining Planet Hollywood.
Oh yeah,
I think I heard that. So like,
it's all Popeye stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, you can go down there.
They're gonna change the name to the Popeye restaurant.
The Popeye restaurant, yeah.
Not to be confused with the actual Popeyes restaurant.
That's why they couldn't do it.
It's just one big Popeyes with a bunch of Hollywood memorabilia in there.
Popeye has like a weird history of like promoting stuff, because of course he also has like his brand of spinach that you can buy at restaurants. He's deep into the supplement game.
Yeah, he's got like some protein powder or something too.
Yeah,
which should just be spinach flavored.
Yep,
IMO.
So it's spinach, it's protein powder, and it's candy cigarettes that have never fooled anybody once. So yeah, weird product placement there. But yeah, Popeye, haven't seen it in a really long time. Probably doesn't hold up. I will say this though, without having rewatched it in a very long time. Shelley Duvall as Olive Oil, one of the greatest cartoon to live action casting, period. No one else could have played that. Shelley Duvall is she's just a natural olive oil type figure.
I'm sure she's thrilled with that.
Well, she's no longer with us. All right.
Okay. You know who also isn't with us anymore? Robin Williams. Let's continue with this filmography.
A lot of the people we're going to...
Merry Christmas, everyone.
1982 was his first stab at a semi-dramatic role with the...
Good Morning, Vietnam?
No, that's a little bit later. It is the John Irving adaptation, The World According to Garp, which is like a tragi-comedy thing, which is most of John Irving's books. But yeah, this was the first time people were all like, oh, Robin Williams can flex his dramatic muscles a little bit. Then from there, he's in a couple of movies that kind of don't exist anymore. 1983, The Survivors, which is a buddy comedy with him and Walter Matthau. They're carrying a bunch of guns on the poster.
Okay.
Moscow on the Hudson, he plays a Russian saxophonist who lives in America. 1985, he's in a movie called The Best of Times.
Oh.
A different one, with Kurt Russell, where he plays an accountant who, when he was in high school, he fumbled the big football in the big match, and it's haunted him ever since. And now as an adult, he's going to relive it, and he's going to catch that He's going to catch that football this time, Jameson, and Kurt Russell is going to help him. Also in 1985, 1985,
Flava Flav hit the scene.
I'm sticking with it.
Okay.
Every gaff that I say sticks in now, and I'm gonna repeat it just so you know that I said, because this is real. This is raw, like Robin. Club Paradise, which is a movie we could easily do on this podcast. I think you even pitched it at one point in time.
Maybe, I don't know. We've been doing this show fucking forever.
We've watched a lot of movies.
Yeah.
It's directed by Harold Ramis. It also stars Peter O'Toole, Jimmy Cliff, Rick Moranis, Eugene Levy. It appears to just be a loose Caddyshack-esque movie where Robin Williams runs a paradise club on the beach, and antics ensue, one assumes. 1987, though. So here's where his career takes like a big step forward, where he gets... basically back-to-back Oscar nominations. There's a year in between these two films, but it's the two big movies that announce him as a serious actor that people need to take seriously. 1987, Good Morning Vietnam, which does have a lot of comedy elements. He's playing a comedian, but there's also lots of serious shit in that movie. It's the Vietnam War, of course.
Yeah, I mean, like I want to say, like, at the hour mark, it stops being a comedy. Because at that point, it's just him running his radio show and drawing the ire from the commanding officers for just not following military decorum. And then, I guess he's just out in the middle of a village and a bomb goes off and kills a young kid. And it's like, jeez. Yeah, like I said, make you laugh, make you cry.
Not too much fun about the old Vietnam War. There was a lot of, well, it was a war, you know? And there's nothing
it's
fun
not
about
all MASH, sometimes.
No, yes. Oh, MASH, one of the funniest comedies ever made. Yes, hilarious. And then
I meant the TV show.
And then 2 years after that is Dead Poets Society, a movie that I'm certain everyone from our generation was forced to watch in English class.
Captain, my Captain.
Yes,
indeed,
yes. Another movie where there's a little less of his like comedic joie de vivre in that, because he's playing like the inspiring teacher and what have you. But yeah, both of those got him Best Actor nominations. After that, he tried for a third but didn't quite make it, but his co-star managed to get a Best Actor nomination in the 1990 film Awakenings, where he plays a doctor who does a bunch of medical experiments on people who are like kind of catatonic, and he brings Robert De Niro back from being a vegetable.
Right.
And then, but then, oh no, it doesn't last for very long. So he wants to live while he can.
That was one of those movies that was on Netflix for a while, and there was like, oh, I'll just put it on my list because that seems interesting. And then there was like the Leaving Soon tag on. I was like, oh shit, I better get around to actually watching it. And then I never did.
A classic Leaving Soon movie. Yes.
The one that got away.
Oh, boy. He got his third Oscar nomination in 1991 for The Fisher King, directed by Terry Gilliam, where he plays a homeless man who befriends, I believe, a shock jockey played by Jeff Bridges. And I forget the plot of that. They just kind of like pal around for a bit. They both get girlfriends.
With an odd premise like that, it is actually a drama, but it's all about like some kooky characters. Yeah. So let's get Robin Williams. He'll know what to do with this.
Yeah, and he plays the homeless man, and he's maybe like a little manic, so he has all of like these long rambling monologues about the Fisher King who lives in the sky.
Yes.
What
you're saying? Robin Williams has long rambling monologues.
I don't say it's a real stretch for him. He was stepping outside of his comfort zone on that one. Yes. But also in 1991, he plays a grown-up Peter Pan in Steven Spielberg's Hook, which at one point in time was considered Steven Spielberg's worst movie, and now I feel like
it's one of his worst movies.
I feel like nostalgia has bumped it up a little bit. I mean, like that's you're talking about childhood Robin Williams movies. There was definitely a ton of screenings of that growing up and just being fascinated by the Lost Boys eating big plates of colored mashed potatoes. Yeah. I don't know. Like I never forgot that.
Yeah.
No thoughts on Hook.
Dustin Hoffman was kind of funny.
He was Hook.
Yeah.
He was looky.
He was the titular Hook.
He had a hooky. 1992. Here's the big one: is when he lent his voice to a character that we all hold dear.
You're subverting expectations. You're going to talk about that fucking bat he did in Fern Gully, right?
Batty Coda from Fern Gully, The Last Rainforest, which was released the same year as the Disney film Aladdin.
Yeah.
And it's part of the reason why he got into the legal tussle that he got into with Disney, because part of the deal he made with Disney signing up to play the voice of Aladdin was, I don't want my name to be on the poster. I don't want you to advertise the fact that I'm in this movie because I committed to Fern Gully first. And he was into Fern Gully because it had like the environmental angle and he was really into that. So he's all like, I'm not putting my name on Fern Gully, so I want you to extend the same courtesy to Aladdin.
Yeah, and a bigger production from a more well-known studio.
Yes.
Yeah, but this has an important message. Don't do this to the little movie that could. Yeah,
right, absolutely.
Disney, yeah.
And he also made like other stipulations, like the genie wasn't allowed to be like bigger than any of the characters on any of the marketing or anything like that. He had all of like these like idealized like thing, like he had like a set of like ethics that he wanted to stick to that didn't like dilute the principles of the movie, like the artistic statement that the people were making. And of course, the other thing you have to remember is obviously celebrities doing voices in animated movies had happened before Aladdin, but this really was a landmark movie in terms of we got a big celebrity to be a voice in this. And now, of course, every animated movie Like every character in an animated movie is voiced by someone that you've heard of.
Right.
Unfortunately. But Disney agreed, and they shook his hand, and they said absolutely.
And they didn't backstab
and
him or
then
nothing.
he left the office, and they said, we're not doing any of that shit. And so the movie came out, and Robin Williams immediately sued Disney, and they got into years of litigation. At one point in time, I believe they sent him a Picasso as a bit of a sorry we stabbed you in the back, Robin.
As a sweetener? What?
Basically just as like a as an olive branch. It's all like, hey, we have this original Picasso painting. We'll just give it to you. Sorry for not honoring the contract that we stipulated with you. And he sent it back because he was a big baller and he wasn't going to shift on his principles.
Wow.
Eventually, they came to a deal because while he didn't voice the genie in the
sequel, he came back for the third one.
He came back for Aladdin and the Prince of Thieves. Which even though that is a direct to VHS movie and the animation is noticeably shittier than the big screen movie, a lot of Robin Williams' bit from that third King of Thieves movie, I still remember. There's one bit where he's the genie. Obviously, he's the genie. Of course, he's the genie.
Oh, is he?
He's the genie. You have to understand.
He came back as the genie, not as like a fucking peach salesman or something.
He was also playing the merchant, so, he might have had some peaches. The mixed Julian fries.
You're right, yeah, okay, well, I'm going with your point.
And he's, like, interviewing all of, like, these, like, famous people from history. He's like, oh, there's Julius Caesar and Cleopatra, and they're bringing a salad. Oh, how lovely. Oh, and who's coming through the crowd here? He's parting the waves. Oh, it's Moses. And then the bit that always fucking gets me is he interviews the Norse god Thor. And the bit is, and you, sir, what is your name? I'm Thor. You're Thor? Well, it hurts.
All right.
I love it.
That's
I
good.
love it. It's great.
So he just riffed in the sound booth, and then the animators just had to animate what he was talking about.
That's what he did for Aladdin. They had to they had to like go back and they had to like reanimate a lot of shit because he was just throwing stuff at them so fast. They're all like, "Whoa, hold on. Let me explain to you how drawing works."
This isn't how we do animation quite. There's one take.
Also in 1992, a movie that I'm sure he wanted to be as big as Aladdin because he really put his heart and soul into it, that was a major critical and commercial disaster, was the film Toys. You ever see Toys?
Yeah, I turned Toys off.
A singularly weird movie. A movie that famously has a very strange teaser trailer, which is just Robin Williams in a field.
Yeah, you talked about this once.
Yeah, there's absolutely no footage. Yeah, it's weirdly that movie's most lasting legacy is the weird fucking trailer that has no footage from the movie.
I forget what episode you brought that up on, but you've definitely talked about that trailer before.
We've done over 130 of these, so yeah. 1993, Mrs. Doubtfire, probably his biggest overall movie, I'd say, outside of Aladdin, really. Is probably his biggest, most well-loved live-action movie, I would say. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Haven't watched that in a minute.
Nope.
Probably holds up?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Probably.
I mean, he's cross-dressing, but he's doing it for love. He's doing it for the love of his kids. And he sticks his face in a pie and he goes, hello!
Yep.
That's what happens in that movie. 1995, of course, is Jumanji, which weirdly has now found a second life as an action comedy franchise that only mildly resembles the movie that it's based on.
Yeah, because kids play video games these days and not board games.
Yep.
Did you ever have the Jumanji board game?
I absolutely did.
Yeah.
And I was disappointed every time it didn't suck me into the game and begin the world of adventure.
They had that weird red filter thing that you slip the cards through so you could actually read it. And it was like, oh, this is all pretty ingenious and stuff. And I remember the cards that had the actual effects from the movie. So it was like, oh, sweet, I remember this scene.
Yeah.
I want like an actual recreation of the Jumanji one. I want it to be like made out of wood and have like the real ornate ones would have like the hinges on it and the nice.
It'd be like $50. It would be like so expensive. It would be like the most. It's like a bespoke board game. Like only like a handful of them are created every year.
When I make my first $1 million, that's the first thing I'm commissioning. Is I want a recreation of the board game from Jumanji.
It was also briefly an animated series. I remember it had like that classic ugly Klasky Shupo style animation or whatever. Yeah,
that was filmed here, wasn't it? In Vancouver?
Jumanji?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think so. Yeah.
Maybe.
I think so.
Makes sense. All the outside stuff certainly looks like Vancouver.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. You know what? Without looking it up,
we'll check into
let's say it was with absolutely no research. 1996, another one of his most beloved movies, and just like a genuinely hilarious movie, The Birdcage. Based on the French film La Cage aux Folles, which has now gone on to be a Broadway musical. Did you ever see that?
Nope.
Oh, it's so funny.
I know, I've been meaning to watch it.
You're aware. It's Robbie Williams and Nathan
Lane, yeah, playing a gay couple, which sounds fucking hilarious.
And and their son marries a woman, and her father is like a senator or whatever, so they have to pass as a straight couple for an evening, and Nathan Lane is in drag.
Oh, okay. I was gonna ask, like, how are these two men gonna pass off as a straight couple?
Through comic shenanigans, Jameson.
Okay.
This is how we do this. Yes. And there's a lovely story that I see, like, making the rounds on, like, Instagram and TikTok or whatever, where it's Nathan Lane recounting the fact that while he was making that movie, he still wasn't out as a gay man, and they were both being interviewed by Oprah Winfrey, and Oprah was sort of asking him, like, leading questions, trying to get him to reveal his sexual orientation before he was kind of comfortable with doing so.
That's rude.
Robin... He says, Nathan Lane tells it, he says, Robin recognized instantly that I was feeling uncomfortable, and he immediately deflected all of Oprah's kind of like questions. So if you watch that interview, she's trying to get to like the core of Nathan Lane, and Robin Williams will not let her do it. He's just
Good
all like,
for him.
bam, bam, bam. No, here's a character I'm doing and whatnot. And so that's another nice...
Good for him for being like one of the few people in show business with integrity at this point. Come on, jeez.
I mean, he has a lot of integrity. Look at this whole Aladdin thing. Like
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, he was willing to
deflect Nathan Lane there.
I mean, there's lots of stories about this. And also in 1996, he plays a little boy in the body of Robin Williams in the Francis Ford Coppola movie Jack, which as of this year is no longer the weirdest movie Francis Ford Coppola has made, but it's definitely one of the worst. There's absolutely
nothing good to say about
Nothing good to say about Jack. He also weirdly appeared in Kenneth Branagh's 4-hour version of Hamlet, but everyone's involved in that. Which weirdly, that movie is the first time he and his lifelong friend Billy Crystal were in the same movie together. They don't share any scenes. They do share the entirety of the 1997 film Father's Day, in which Julia Louis-Dreyfus says, my son is your kid and he's missing, but she said it to both of them, and now they're out on the road. It's one of the many movies in the 90s that was based on a French film. Like they just kept mining that. Like 3 Men and a Baby was based on that. True Lies was based on a French farce. 1997, big year for him. Father's Day, of course, the cinematic classic Flubber, in which he makes flying rubber. And lots of people get hit in the nuts.
Yep.
Someone gets hit in the head with a bowling ball. That would kill a person. But weirdly, he didn't win his Academy Award for Flubber. Instead, he won it for the other film that he released in 1997, which was, of course, the kind psychiatrist in Good Will Hunting.
Yeah. One of my favorite roles that he's ever done. Still watch that movie, take time out to put eyes on it like every couple of years. Very powerful performance from him. Love that monologue that he says to Matt Damon.
Not your fault.
No, you're just a kid. And
exactly, yeah.
Like, that inspired me to do a little more traveling.
So you go to the Sistine Chapel and smell the paint in there.
Yeah. So I can be less of a smartass know-it-all. Was he nominated for Best Actor in Flubber?
No.
Oh, okay.
Of course not. Of course he wasn't.
What do you mean? Oh, well, don't say of course. Like, I don't fucking know. You're the one doing all the research here.
He wasn't. No. Why on earth? Not.
I'm assuming that everything that you talk about in these write-ups that you do are the truth. Why would you?
6 years in, and you assume that everything I'm saying is the truth and not like absolute comic bullshit.
I mean, I can usually tell,
that's on you, man.
I can usually tell when you're pulling my leg or something, but like, I don't fucking know. I don't care what actors do and whether they're getting nominated for shit or not.
I just thought the first instance of knowing whether or not
Melissa McCarthy got nominated for Best Actress for Bridesmaids, so stranger things have happened.
Well, number one, she got nominated for Best Supporting Actress for Bridesmaids.
Okay, I stand wildly corrected.
I would say that maybe Bridesmaids is maybe like a slightly higher brand of comedy than Flubber, but you know what, Jameson?
I haven't seen Flubber. I don't know how good he is in Flubber.
He's really good.
Is he? Okay.
He's really good.
Oscar-nominated performance?
You know what? You know what, Jameson? I want to live in your world. I want to live in your world where Robin Williams can get an Oscar nomination for Flubber. It sounds like a fantastic place
All right.
to live. It's full of possibility, and the world is less cynical.
All right, well, I'm glad I called you out on this so you're not spreading misinformation about the late, great Robin Williams.
Well, not about this.
What else
Well,
has he
after
done?
he wins his Oscar, he starts taking some projects that are like, ooh, Rob. He's trying to go for like a little more austere. He's trying to be all like, well, I'm an award-winning actor now, so of course I have to do these type of projects.
Is this where he starts doing like Insomnia and 1 Hour Photo?
Oh, that's coming.
Oh.
But no, unfortunately, after that, he does like a bunch of, I guess I'll call them weepy dramas. He does What Dreams May Come, where he plays a man who dies and he goes to heaven and it looks like an oil painting and he wants to find his wife, but his wife committed suicide, so she's in hell.
Okay.
And he has to go to hell and get her, and he finds a bunch of faces and he steps on one of the faces and it's Werner Herzog. And it's a weird movie, but it's beautiful. And
Oh,
it looks so
that was
fucking-
nominated for something, wasn't it? Like visual effects or something?
I think that
Yeah.
won visual effects the
Okay.
next year.
All right.
Also, the aforementioned Patch Adams, which again was another, inspirational true story, and he's playing like a real person, and it's just absolute maudlin bullshit. It's when he's at his wackiest, and you're just kind of all like, not like this,
Fair,
Robin.
yeah.
Not like this. Jacob the Liar, where he plays
Never heard of it.
a concentration camp prisoner who gets a radio, and he does like these fake radio broadcasts, and he spreads word across the concentration camp that's like, oh, the Nazis are losing and we're gonna win. I haven't seen it. Sounds like a bummer. Reuniting with the director of Mrs. Doubtfire for Bicentennial Man, where he's a robot who wants to be a human because he falls in love. And don't have a ton of great things to say about that. And then 2002, this is my favorite year in Robin Williams' filmography, because it was like right when I was in the tail end of high school, and I was like an edgy film nerd lover. And 2002, Jameson, as you mentioned earlier, is the year where Robin Williams went dark, because he had 3 movies that I loved unconditionally, and they are, of course, 1 Hour Photo, Insomnia, and Death to Smooch.
Yeah,
which
Death
is
to Smooch.
fantastic. What a great year for like showing his dark side. 2 movies where he plays an absolute psycho. Well, he's kind of a psychopath in Death to Smoochie as well. Yeah, he's showing his dark side,
But a redeemable asshole, I'd say.
yeah, to a point. Yeah.
To a point, yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking Ed Norton came by in a rhino suit and stole his thunder.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they were friends by the end of it.
Yeah.
Spoilers for Death to
And
Smoochie.
they fought the Irish mafia.
Absolutely. But I mean, like, he's terrifying in Insomnia. He's so creepy in 1 Hour Photo.
Yeah.
That movie blew my mind, because I had no idea he had that type of performance in him.
Unsettling.
And then from there, these are movies that I loved, and outside of Insomnia, on the basis of it being a Christopher Nolan movie, none of these movies really did anything for him, unfortunately, because unfortunately he starts doing a whole string of movies that really don't go anywhere. We could all do episodes on these one day. Films like The Final Cut, The Big White, The Night Listener, House of D. He does a couple of voiceover roles for films like Robots. He's in both Happy Feet movie. He does the family comedy RV, where he gets a recreational vehicle and he goes on the road with his kids. I think Jeff Daniels is the other dad in that one. 2006, Man of the Year, same director as Good Morning Vietnam, where he plays sort of
that
like...
was like a Jon Stewart if he ran for president.
If Jon
kinda.
Stewart ran for president, but it's Robin Williams. And I haven't seen that movie. I'll just say, Jon Stewart, Robin Williams, different styles of comedy. So, yeah, I don't know how successful that is. I've heard that turns into like a political thriller in the second act. Sounds strange.
I thought it would be like a Wag the Dog style satire, but oh well.
Oh, maybe there's a little bit of that in there. Also in 2006, he stars as President Teddy Roosevelt in Night at the Museum. Well, he doesn't star as Teddy Roosevelt. He stars as a mannequin that comes to life and believes he is Teddy Roosevelt, which is a role that he would go on to play in the other 2 Night at the Museum films.
They made 3 of those movies?
They made 3 of them.
Huh.
They were big. They made money. People like museums and things coming to life in them. 2007, he's in the very strange sort of Oliver Twist pastiche film August Rush. where he plays kind of a Fagin type character. Where
Isn't it Fagin?
I said Fagin.
Okay.
You're not gonna trap me. You're not gonna trick me into saying something.
All right.
Also, I'm allowed to say that word.
I see. All right.
But I won't because it's unpleasant. 2009, he teams up with his old stand-up comedy buddy Bobcat Goldthwait for the dark comedy World's Greatest Dad, which is a pitch-black dark comedy where he plays a dad. His son is this absolutely deplorable little piece of shit, and one day he walks into his son's room to find that he has accidentally hung himself through autoerotic asphyxiation, and he writes this poem or this series of journal entries, and he credits it to his son, and then the lie sort of spirals from there, and his son becomes like this tragic figure after his death, and he has to keep the lie going, and he can't let anyone know that his son was a piece of shit who died while he was masturbating. It's fun, but it's a bit of a tough sit.
Yeah.
But it's him trying to do more of like these dark comedies that he's doing. 2013, he plays another president, President Eisenhower, in Lee Daniels' The Butler, a movie that cast a lot of stunt casting actors as presidents. Alan Rickman is Ronald Reagan. John Cusack is Richard Nixon. Considerably, Williams as Eisenhower is one of the more normal performances in that movie. And then his final movie that was released while he was alive is the 2014 film The Angriest Man in Brooklyn, where he plays a man who learns that thanks to an accident he has 12 hours to live, and he runs around trying to make amends for all of the bad things he's done in his life. Peter Dinklage plays his brother. Mila Kunis is also in this. And then, of course, he tragically passed away. It is a fact that he took his own life, but as context has revealed as time has gone on, he was suffering from some sort of condition. He was suffering from some sort of longing disease that he realized at some point in time that his brain function would have started fading from him, so he chose to go out on his own terms, which frankly I think more people should be given the option to do that, to let them go out on their own terms. And maybe he did it in a way that really kind of shocked and traumatized his family.
I mean, it's hard talking about any kind of silver lining in a story about such a beloved figure taking his own life like that. But I think one of the more positive things that came out of it was it did shine a light on this is what depression looks like.
Yes.
This actually opened things up to people who's like, he didn't seem the type, and where it was like any psychiatrist would have said, no, he very much fits a profile, and it makes absolute total sense. And these are the warning signs that you should be aware of. Be aware that it's not just, I'm mopey.
Yes.
There are clear telltale signs. There is no one way to recognize it, and just open up the channels in the discussion to letting people into that world.
Yeah.
Let's say a little bit more.
I'll just do my due diligence and actually say that what he had was Lewy body dementia, which combines both Parkinson's and dementia. So it's a cocktail of two horrible things, and I think he just was looking down the barrel and realized, I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to lose the ability to speak. I'm going to lose the ability to do the things that I love. So as you say, he also struggled with depression. This is always going to be a bit of a bummer episode. There's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
But he had 3 movies released after his death. One of them is A Merry Friggin' Christmas. It is not his final live-action screen performance. That is Night of the Museum 3, Secret of the Tomb. His final on-screen performance is Teddy Roosevelt. But his final performance, as I've mentioned on a couple of episodes, is as the voice of Dennis the Dog in the Terry Jones film Absolutely Anything. So yeah, not a great. But it's hard. It's hard to end on like a prime note,
Of course,
So, yeah.
it always would be. But I mean, he doesn't have to answer to anything. He's entertained generations of people for years. He's left a really long-standing legacy. He has like an entire career full of brilliant performances to look back on. His is a life that should be celebrated.
Yes, and still is to this day. He will always be Robin Williams. No one can ever take that away from him. And of course, his daughter Zelda is now a filmmaker in her own right.
Hey,
She
good for her.
directed this year's Lisa Frankenstein, which is a cute little movie.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Hopefully she'll go on to do some other things. So
Is it true that he named her after the video game series?
indeed it is,
Oh,
and they made a series of Nintendo DS commercials where he did that thing because he was a big video gamer. Yeah. Well, there we go.
Yeah.
So let's get into the holiday spirit. Let's talk
Now's the
about
time.
one of his final movies. We'll take a little break, and when we come back, we'll have ourselves
A Merry Friggin' Christmas.
Merry friggin' Christmas.
All right, well,
All right.
stay tuned, everyone. And we're back.
We're back.
Yes, it's Christmas time.
It's Christmas time, and may I be the first to wish you a Merry friggin' Christmas.
Yep.
Jameson.
Thank you.
Merry friggin' Christmas is directed by Tristram Shapiro. This is the only movie that he has directed. He is primarily a TV filmmaker who has directed a ton of television episodes, the majority of which, unsurprisingly, is the TV show Community. As if we have not mentioned up until now, the actual star of this movie is Joel McHale. We're kind of doing another one of our super stealth trilogies here, where we're doing 2 Christmas episodes that both star sitcom actors.
That's right.
And in the case of this one, it's actually 2 sitcom actors because Robin Williams
was also a
in
sitcom
Mork and
actor.
Mindy,
Oh,
yes.
wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so we got that going
I was
on.
thinking it would be like comedian Christmas if we planned this out a little bit more, but yeah.
I mean, they're all
sitcom.
sitcoms, so they're comedies, so
Sure.
they're kind of comedians. I mean, the next one I have, it also stars a stand-up comedian that had a famous television show, so that's a little spoiler. You can figure out on your own time
who could it
what
be?
that
What
one's
could it-
going to be. Yeah, for the first time since all the way back in My Brother the Pig, we also have some other names behind the camera that are kind of interesting involved in this movie because it is from the mind of one of the people who directed a lot of Community. It's also executive produced by the Russo brothers, who did...
This does not look like it was produced by the Russo brothers.
No, well, it was. I should say it was executive produced by the Russo brothers. But of course, they did a bunch of the episodes of Community as well before they went on to basically run Marvel. Into the ground.
Oh, boom! Take that, Marvel.
And also, speaking of Marvel, the music score is done by Ludwig Göransson, who, of course, went on to do the musical score for both of the Black Panther films. He's a regular collaborator with Childish Gambino. He co-wrote This Is America.
Oh, wow.
He just won an Oscar for Oppenheimer. So yeah, he's like the new John Williams. He's the new Michael Giacchino. He's like, so yeah, when his name popped up in the credits, I was very impressed that he did. I don't remember the score for this movie at all. I'm sure there's lots of sleigh bells and there's ding 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 ding.
I'll get into it at one point. The only name that kind of popped out to me in the opening credits of this is, did you happen to catch the writer of this film?
I did indeed.
Because last episode you mentioned that you were a big fan of the movie Cedar Rapids, and the guy who did that also wrote this. Now, I told you that I've never seen Cedar Rapids. You say it's good, and maybe that kind of...
Did you check it out?
Nope, but but you sang its praises, and now you're saying that you sing this movie's praises. I do not care for this movie. I get the feeling I will not like Cedar Rapids.
Well, it's all relative.
Yeah.
Art is subjective. Yeah, but Phil Johnson wrote this movie. He also wrote films like Zootopia, Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah, and I was
Ralph Breaks the Internet.
And I was like, shit, how is this movie so bad then? All right, a little spoiler alert there.
We're on opposite sides of this.
What's one of our famous... we're not on the same page with this.
Then this will be a review where I will take the role of Buddy the Elf, and you'll just be mean old Scrooge.
I'll be a real Grinch about this.
Yeah.
All right, so the marketing for this movie is a little deceptive because going by the trailer, I thought this was just going to be a poor man's Christmas vacation.
I mean, that's what it reminded me the most of. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if there was, like, I don't know if this movie had, like, a screening. I don't know if it had, like a gala premiere that everyone, like, went to. But if it did, I would like to imagine that after it was over, Joel McHale is sitting in the audience, someone taps him on the shoulder, he leans, he looks back, it's Chevy Chase, and he leans
You're
down,
no me, kid.
He leans down into his ear and goes like, it's not as easy as it looks, is it?
So I thought this was going to be like a very broad holiday comedy. It's way more twee than I was expecting. This is a indie family dramedy more than anything else in my eyes, and I think that's very indicative with the music score that this guy was doing, which is, a lot of plucky strings and light, jaunty piano tunes to it. Not really a Christmassy kind of soundtrack to it.
I think there's a difference between a dramedy and a comedy that's not that funny. And I think this one is probably in the latter.
But that's like their excuse. Oh, you didn't laugh so much?
It's a dramedy.
It's a dramedy. That's why you didn't.
Look, Robert Williams is sad in this scene because he can't connect with his son. It's a dramedy, you understand, right?
Now it's a dramedy.
Now you get it now. Yeah. But this is a story about the Mitchler family and about our protagonist, Boyd Mitchler, who is played by Joel McHale as an adult, and the film opens with him as a small boy.
Yeah.
And he's sneaking down to the Christmas tree to see what Santa brought him. And he's all excited. But who should be at the tree eating the milk and cookies? It's not Santa, but it's his dad, Virgil Mitchler, played by Robin Williams. And he's a bit of a grump. He's a bit of a Grinch himself.
Bit of a drunkard as well,
Yes.
I'd say here.
He is an alcoholic.
Yeah, now, I think it's important to note that, like, while he is never abusive to his son, like, he's not beating him or anything, he's very cynical.
He's a little emotionally abusive.
I'd say so, yeah. And the main dramatic hooks of this movie is that Joel McHale resents his father because growing up, he wasn't the warmest or the most kind father, and he was very quick to say things that would just disillusion a child. Santa Claus isn't real. The Tooth Fairy's not real. Easter Bunny's not real. The whole world is a sad, depressing place, and you better get used to it, kid.
Yeah, we see this scene where little Boyd is...
I'm the only Santa you'll ever know.
Yeah. So he's had a couple of scotch and sodas, and he's telling his kid that it's all bullshit, and I'm the one that pays you all the presents and everything. At the same time, he's also, like, building the train set with his kid. So this sets up, like, this weird sort of parallel narrative that's going on in this movie where Boyd is trying to get across this message that his father was a shitty father and he treated him poorly or whatever. But, like, all of that seems subjective because we only really see one glimpse into the past where his dad is kind of doing something not great. I mean, kids gotta learn eventually that Santa Claus isn't real, even though a big narrative thread of this movie is Boyd refuses to let his young son get the idea that Santa Claus might not be real. He has to believe for this year, this is the last year that he'll ever believe in Santa, and no one's gonna ruin it for him.
The emotional stakes of this movie are making sure that his young son still believes in Santa Claus.
Right.
And I suppose that's admirable enough for a parent to do. I just don't think it's that strong of a crux for an entire movie. I'm not fully on that.
He's just going way too far with it, and that's leading us to our big problem with our main protagonist. He's an asshole.
Yeah. Now
he's really unpleasant.
Now, Joel McHale is great at playing assholes that you can't help but like. They just have that kind of roguish charm, and eventually they do learn a lesson.
Yeah, they forgot the second part.
They forgot the part that you got to make this guy likable.
Yeah. I mean, this is the first of many, many comparisons with National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, because I think it's just impossible with this. But the thing with Clark Griswold is also an asshole. He does many deplorable things over the course of that movie, and of course the Vacation franchise in totality, but he's still doing it for, like, slightly altruistic reasons. He still wants to give his family the best Christmas possible.
There's an obliviousness there that's endearing. And, whenever he is very curt with people, you kind of see where he's coming from, too.
Sure, exactly. Like Walter ruined his tree, and Miriam wrapped up her cat or whatever. And it's just like
Cousin Eddie's annoying.
Cousin Eddie is here.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a big problem. He lives next door to yuppies.
Yeah.
And no one likes them. Boyd is really sort of missing any hint of likability. He is just like this this atypical, well, he is also like a bit of a yuppie.
He's a stock trader or something,
He's
right?
a stock trader. He puts materialism first. He's all in on Christmas. He says his method of parenting is the exact opposite of what Robin Williams did.
Yeah, which was a little distant, a little a little more. He's not sugarcoating anything.
Yeah.
Whereas him, he wants to.
He wants everything to be wrapped up in a big
sunshine
rainbow.
and rainbows. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Robin Williams playing this character. Slightly conservative. He shoots guns. He kills squirrels. He drinks beer.
He's worried about his kids being. What are you, a Sally?
Yeah. Robin Williams, as we spent the first half of this podcast saying, like a beloved actor who could very nearly do no wrong. He's really not suited to this part at all. Like, it's just he was a fantastic actor, and he could. I'm certain he could portray like a beer swilling conservative dad, but his heart's just not in this, and it's really apparent. And it's the entire time he's there, it's just like, well, it's just Robin Williams playing a character. I don't buy that he's this guy.
Yeah, and he's like, well, I'm playing the grouchy grandfather figure in this family Christmas comedy. Do I really want to be this much of a grouch? Because, like, for all the talk we hear of Robin Williams not have been, like, a great dad to Joel McHale, he's great with the grandkids.
Yeah, immediately. And he's not, like, he's, like, supportive of, like, his weird younger son and, like, to the point. It's kind of like, my overall take on this movie is Joel McHale maybe could ease up on his fucking dad a little bit.
Dial it back a little bit.
And that's ultimately sort of like the moral of the story, I guess we get here. But so we meet the Mitchler family, Joel McHale, his wife Luann, who is played by Gilmore Girls' Lauren Graham, and they have two kids, young Douglas, and Vera, who's slightly older. She no longer believes in Santa Claus, but Joel McHale's all like, you let your brother just imagine the majesty and magic of the season for one more year. God damn it!
I do love how he keeps snapping at all the kids and saying, like, whatever, Santa Claus is not real. You shut your fucking mouths about Santa not being real.
All this Santa crap is for babies. Every dumbass knows there's no such thing.
Shut up! Shut your mouth! Shut your big eating mouth right now! Shut it!
And the film opens and they're going up to meet a mall Santa or what have you. But there's another Santa who's making the rounds.
A more disheveled Santa, a hobo Santa.
Played by the great Oliver Platt.
Yeah.
Who, when I saw him in two things happened. One, I was reminded of another great sort of Christmas-themed dark comedy, The Ice Harvest, which is sort of like this caper crime film where John Cusack, Billy Bob Thornton, and Oliver Platt, and they're stealing something on Christmas. But Oliver Platt also spends that entire movie completely drunk off his ass. So he's cornering the market on that particular caricature.
If there's one more, we could have done like a whole series on that.
And I also thought to myself when watching this, like, what happened to Oliver Platt? I haven't seen him in a movie in forever. And then I went to his filmography and I realized, he's on one of those Chicago TV shows. He's on like Chicago Fire or something. So he's done like 800 episodes of that.
Yeah, so he's busy.
He's good.
It's not like he's not getting
No,
work.
he's just one of those actors was all like, what if I just played this role forever? What if I just did this?
Yeah. So this is, I'm just going to say, like, the red herring Santa, where, like, well, he's not the mall Santa, he's like this hobo Santa, but he keeps cropping up throughout the movie, and it's like, are we dropping not so subtle hints that this might be the real Santa and have, like, actual magic powers?
Yeah. If so, that leads to some fantastic implications for this. He's practically like the Santa from Violent Night at this point, where he's just walking around and just a much better Christmas comedy than this. But Douglas the kid sees that Santa and he sees the drunk Santa and he's all like, how can there be two Santas? And Joel McHale has to give him some bullshit about the magic of Christmas or whatever. And then he gets...
No, what I love about that scene is, like, his sister says, like, well, I've been talking to my friends and it's confirmed that there's no Santa. She showed me this one website, nosanta.org.
Madison's sister, she showed us this website, nosanta.org.
Hey.
And I'm like, what the fucking industry is there around that's trying to pop the bubble on the myth of Santa Claus for kids?
It has
Like,
to be.
wake up, sheeple!
It has to be real. It's an org.
Yeah.
Only the most serious of sites.
Yeah,
are-
no
are that.
Santa.edu, yeah.
Yes. But Boyd gets a phone call from his younger brother Nelson, played by Clark Duke, an actor that I like fine. I think he's a little, he can be a little too much in certain movies, but I think he hits a fine balance in this.
Have you ever seen Clark and Michael?
I've seen like off and on. Yeah,
That was my
yeah.
first exposure
Right, yeah.
to Clark Duke. And, like, what a weird project to be introduced. For those who don't know, Clark and Michael is this YouTube or web short series that he did with Michael Cera the year after Arrested Development ended.
Yes.
And it's just them trying to sell a TV pilot to famous people in Hollywood. And there's, like, cameos from some big enough names for the era there. There's, like, Patton Oswalt, Tony Hale, Jonah Hill.
Right.
Yeah, it's a weird project.
It definitely had the air of like, oh, Michael Cera is doing like this little project and he's bringing his less famous friend along. I remember like the sort of like the vibe at the time is all like, we need a Jonah Hill type for this type
But he's
of thing.
busy, so we'll
He is busy. And then Clark Duke started getting some roles in his own right. And he's fine. I like him and he's fine in this movie.
So Clark Duke, he's got some problems, this
Yes.
guy. It's explained that he was in basic training in the military, but he fell off a truck. And so he's not in the military anymore, but it's an excuse for him to walk away with brain damage.
Yes.
So, he'll spout off like weird... He doesn't quite understand caller ID or time zones, and he kind of laughs at it. Like, oh, that's funny. That's weird.
He's got that thing going
Yeah, so
on,
he's like just one of those like functionally moronic people.
So the joke is that Clark Duke has a PTSD from his brain injury from
falling off a truck.
From falling off a transport. He didn't see any active duty, but like on the way to active duty, he fell off the back of a transport. But the joke is that Robin Williams is so proud of his veteran son, he won't let anyone, least of all Boyd,
He hurt
give
himself
his
in the
some
war.
shit.
He's a hero.
He's a hero. God damn it, he was decorated. And that's a kind of a funny running gag
Yeah.
that they keep coming back to. But he gets PTSD and he can't deal with high stress scenarios. So whenever that happens, he has to leave the room and find a quiet place and kind of hyperventilate in a corner.
Yeah. So basically, like an all-purpose kind of character. Whatever we need the script to do to get somewhere, he'll be the way to facilitate that.
Well, yeah, and he facilitates the plot moving forward because he is the catalyst for Boyd and his family changing their holiday plans and going up to his parents' house where presumably Clark Duke lives because in probably the movie's weirdest and most overall forgotten, abandoned subplot, Clark Duke has adopted a Mexican baby.
Yeah.
He had an ex-girlfriend that cheated on him with a Mexican gentleman, and they had a child.
Foisted a kid on him.
And then they have essentially abandoned him with Clark Duke. And now Clark Duke is raising
another man's kid.
Raising another man's kid, but he loves his son.
Yeah.
And they have to come down because the baptism is on Christmas Eve.
Which I'm sure the church is happy to accommodate for.
Yeah, they're not doing anything.
They're not busy on Christmas
Absolutely,
Eve.
Yeah. Yes, and so they go to the christening, and Clark Duke names his son Boyd after his older brother, but he says he will be Boyd Jr., so from that point on, the baby's name is BJ. Isn't that funny? It's like fellatio.
Yeah.
Do you get it? Do you get the joke?
Yeah.
Yeah. And from that point on, aside from like a couple of like standalone moments, that baby is completely forgotten.
They forgot about the baby.
Much like the baby's own mother forgot about it. Yes.
So we meet the rest of the family, the rest of the extended family, which is, come to think of it, there are a lot of returning actors from previous episodes in this one. Yeah. Other than like Robin Williams, we've got Wendy McLovin, not McLovin.
Wendy McLovin. That was the other Michael Cera project. Yes. Wendy McLendon-Covey.
Thank you.
Just last episode, we were bemoaning the fact she had nothing to do in Over Her Dead Body, and she has slightly more to do.
A little bit more, yeah.
A little bit more to do. She has more than one scene. She has like a couple of funny gags. She really is the great utility player in comedies where like she always shows up for a handful of scenes. She's never really the most memorable part.
But she could go big if she wanted
Absolutely.
to. She has that in her.
You know, we mentioned Bridesmaids earlier, and it's all like, oh yeah, she's also in that. And like, what does she do? It's like, kind of not much, but she's there.
Yeah.
She's one of the bridesmaids.
So she plays their sister, and she's back from the holidays with her white trash family.
Yes.
She's back together with her ex, Tim Heidecker, and their 2 Hellraiser kids.
Yep, and Tim Heidecker is in full weirdo mode here. He's kind of ostensibly playing the Cousin Eddie type, even though he's not really like fulfilling that role. He's not that important of a character, but like he's in classic supporting Heidecker role here, where he comes in and he'll do like the punchline. There's a very funny sight gag where 2 characters are laughing about something, and then it's revealed that he's also in the room, but he has his shirt off, and they just look at him. He's all like, "Wow, I didn't read these social cues at all."
Yeah, I like that one part where Robin Williams and Joel McHale are just like getting into a tussle in the living room, and he breaks it up and he says, "Okay, if we're gonna do this, we need to set some ground rules."
Yeah. I really get to...
But he could have been doing more in this movie.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I really get to brag about my career on this podcast, but I was directed by Tim Heidecker in a commercial.
Really?
Yes, Tim and Eric, as a matter of fact, yes.
Like an actual commercial?
An actual commercial that aired on television.
It wasn't just like a skit for their show? It
No,
was like,
oh man, that would have been incredible. No, man, if I was in a skit on their show, I would be dropping that at every possible opportunity.
Oh my god! But
no,
they're actual like TV directors.
I think what happened is I think both of them are a little more famous now, but I think while they were making their show, they basically supplemented their income while they were coming up with like weird Adult Swim sketches just by directing a buttload of TV commercials.
No way.
A lot of famous directors will direct TV commercials just as a way to like keep in practice, or they'll want to try out like a new camera technique that they don't necessarily want to waste the time on a movie or whatever. Like they'll just like fill the time. But I had no idea that they were the directors until I got on set and I was getting mic'd up. It was for something called Jet.com, which I'm not even sure exists anymore. It seemed like it was like basically just like a cheaper Amazon type service where you could go and you could order like cleaning supplies or like home furnishings. I don't know. I really have no idea. They just paid me. I had no idea what the product was. But I got there, I was getting mic'd up, and the person who was micing me up said, like, yeah, I think it's going to be fun. You know, we shot something earlier today, and it's really cool. Tim and Eric run like a really fun set. I was just like, Tim and Eric? Tim and Eric?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I walked onto the set and they were there. And I had one line where we were celebrating an office birthday party, and then the joke is someone falls through the ceiling onto the cake, which was very cool because we had a stunt guy who was rigged up, and we had like 3 cakes, so we tried it like a bunch of different ways. But then I had like the button of the scene where my line was, slow down, Bob, save some for us. And so I did that, and that's what made it into the commercial. But then after I did it, they just kept yelling at me over from Video Village. They just kept feeding me lines. And I did like 10 or 15 different takes of just shit where like they would yell something at me. I had half a second to process it, and then I did it. I would give anything for that footage. I know it's like lost of time, but it's just like... It's just like okay, this time Kaz, just say yip or something like that. I think at one point in time they're all like go, or I'm the funny one. So it was like very, very much like their style of humor. And then and then at the tail end of the day, I just walked over and said, "Thanks a lot, guys. That was like one of the best experiences I ever had." Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, so that's my rubbing shoulders with
how about that?
shoulder. And now I don't even have an agent currently. I have no career to speak of.
Well, ring them up. I'm sure they'll help you out. They'll be like, "Hey, you're the yip yip guy.
Remember me? Remember that one commercial you guys directed like 8 years ago for a product no one remembers?"
So back to the fucking movie here.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that like the more interesting story, or at least the more interesting character avenue, is through Wendy and her family, because she's getting back together with her husband, has a history of like masturbating in public or something. Robin Williams always calls him a pervert or something like that.
They play it up as all like it was a big misunderstanding. I had like an itch or something like that, or something like that. I don't know. There's like some line of dialogue that explains that he's not like an actual sexual predator.
Yeah, but she mentions that they're going through marriage counseling and they're working through their trauma, and she just wants to use this opportunity, as we're saying, grace or whatever, or doing the toast, to say that I blame you, mom and dad. Like, sounds like unlike Joel McHale, she actually has some unresolved trauma between her parents.
This is
here.
like the redneck side of the family, and yeah, it's nice. They add like a little bit of color. Weirdly, it feels like the member of this family that gets way more development than either of their parents is their son, who is a competitive eater, and they keep going back to that joke over and over again, where he like scarfs down an entire basket of rolls and like
they're
like 30
go
seconds.
Reds, go
Yeah,
Reds.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, yeah.
And he tries to get Joel McHale's kid into the whole competitive eating type role and everything.
We'll get into that, but man, it's so fucking weird. We always cover like such weird Christmas movies.
That's what we do, man. We gotta find. What do you want to do? You want to talk about White Christmas?
No,
you want to talk about?
I mean, God, like I'm surprised there are so many weird Christmas movies out there. How hard is it to make a fucking Christmas movie?
There's an entire channel devoted to just original weird Christmas movies, Jameson.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. And then the matriarch of the Mitchell family.
Another returning star.
Another returning star in a movie we talked about before. Another absolute legend, the lovely Candice Bergen, who originally did not want to do this movie, but when she found out that she would be co-starring with Robin Williams, she snapped the opportunity because she's always wanted to work with him.
I would not say it was worth it. Ms.
No,
Bergen.
but hey, you know, she's out there, she's doing work, yeah, I mean, kind of jumping ahead a little bit here. My assumption going into this movie, looking at the cast list, I looked at the actors that we're working with here, and I'm like, okay, so one thing I'm pretty confident about is that Lauren Graham and Candice Bergen are going to be like largely the throwaway wife roles, wife, mom.
Yeah.
They're not really going to have anything to do. They might be like kind of like Herodins,
Yeah.
where they're always all like,
why can't you
my
two,
husband.
Why can't you two get along? It's Christmas. Yeah.
They kind of have my favorite subplot in the entire movie.
Where they just get drunk in the attic?
They just have some fun times with vodka in the attic, and they sort of like lay out all their dirty laundry. It's all like, oh, Robin Williams does this and it pisses me off. Well, Joel McHale does this and it pisses me off. And they're kind of having fun, and they're going through Joel McHale's like art projects when he was a kid, and
where he had like a weird B. Arthur face, and he just painted all these pictures of B. Arthur.
And then Lauren Graham gets like emotional. Was all like, it's so say Robin Williams should have just let him like fly. He was like a weird little B. Arthur kid. He should have encouraged him. It was the most pleasant surprise of the movie that the two of them actually had stuff to do, and it was funny, and it informs the ending of the movie with them digging through the attic.
It does.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just a weird visual seeing two grown women like partying in the attic. One of whom's got like a football helmet on, and Candice Bergen's banging on the rock band drums.
Yeah. It's good. It's good stuff. It was more than I thought the movie was going to give them to do.
I'll give them that, but
Yeah.
I mean, sure, they're doing something, but fuck it.
They gave them something, Jameson, which is more than they probably would have given them, which was nothing.
Yeah.
So you know.
So Joel McHale puts the kids to bed, but then realizes that they don't have any of young Doug's Christmas presents.
Yes.
They forgot to bring them home, and there's a scene earlier when they're leaving their house.
Joel McHale's got all the presents in his hand, and then Douglas comes down the stairs, and he's like, oh, and he puts them in a back room.
And he asks his wife, hey, make sure you put those presents in the car. And she says, you got it. And then they have a big argument over, like, I thought you were putting the Christmas presents in the car. And I'm like, no, we all saw. It's the wife at fault.
None of Douglas's presents are here.
No, that's impossible. You put them in the car this morning.
I didn't. You did.
No, you gave me the thumbs up.
Meaning you do it, and you nodded.
Did you end up rewatching this movie?
Yes.
Okay, so you would know better than I would. I was firmly on Team Luann's side. I feel like I remember that scene like a little bit differently. Look, either way, they both really fucked up.
Right.
But Boyd is way too harsh on his wife on this particular thing, where he's all like,
Right, and he's like a largely unlikable character, but in this instance, I'm on his side.
all right, well,
Yeah.
fine. Team. I guess
He
we're
screwed
team.
up.
I guess we're Team Boyd
Yeah,
all of a sudden here. All right, fine.
All right.
Put the little lady in her place. That's what
I'm not-
Jameson Rafter says.
I'm just saying
Anyway.
that she fucked up. All right. So Joel McHale decides that he's going to take it up on himself to drive all the way back to their home in Chicago to get the gifts at the dead of night.
He does the math and he says, if I just drive straight there, I can make it back at like 7:30 in the morning, so make sure the kids stay in bed until then, and I will just make it if I have absolutely no stops along the way. Spoiler alert, there are numerous stops along the way.
Multiple mishaps on the way, yeah.
Who would believe? And and at first Robin Williams does not go with him. What's the catalyst for Robin Williams to start driving after him? I know he gets a flat tire, but Robin Williams doesn't know that.
He gets car troubles. Yeah,
he gets car trouble. Oh, does he call?
He calls the house.
He calls the house and
Robin
says,
Williams comes to get him.
And this is where we learn that Virgil's business is in port-a-potties.
He made his fortune in porta-potties.
Yes, he's
the porta-potty king.
He's the porta-potty king of Wisconsin. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. That moment where he introduces himself as the porta-potty king, that's like one of the few moments where Robin Williams kind of comes alive a little bit in this movie.
Mitch Mitzler, North Central Wisconsin, king of the crappers. For 25 years, Mitzler's Handicrappers have been supplying luxury johns for all your business needs. I always say, if you gotta go, go in style.
Yeah. It's all like, I would have liked to have seen like a commercial with him in it or something like that, to see him have a little joie de vivre, you know?
What was that other line where they said, like, hey, we don't have any gifts for our kid? He's like, don't worry about it. Ray's Tackle Shop is open till 11. We'll get him a mesh hat and a couple of Slim Jims and a Powerball ticket. That was I
mean, it's like that classic, the first episode of The Simpsons where Homer goes to the Quickie Mart and he gets like a chew toy and Frisbee. Yeah.
Now, I get that porta-potties are his business. Does he not have another car? Why does he have to take like the fucking delivery flatbed that he has like fucking 8 porta-potties strapped to the back of? Like,
they're on a tight budget, tight timeline, and it takes like 20 minutes to unhook that trailer. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely, yeah. But no, this is the vehicle that they are in now for the remainder of the movie, and Joel McHale is forced to do the one thing that he does not want to do: spend some quality time with his dad. And they immediately start getting on each other's nerves. Robin Williams is smoking a big cigar and loudly singing a Christmas carol. Boyd has asthma. I'm surprising myself. I said before we sat down, I hadn't watched this movie in like a week, because we moved the recording back for reasons. But turns out I remember a lot more about this movie than I thought, because that's how weird my brain works. Yeah. But we meet this reoccurring character who showed up earlier.
Colin Robinson.
Colin Robinson.
Officer Colin Robinson.
I do not know how to pronounce this man's name.
Oh, it's Mark Proch.
Mark Proch. I have no idea how you say your name. I'm sorry, sir. You're Colin Robinson.
Yeah.
Officer Colin Robinson, who's just like a happy state trooper who will pull you over and give you a ticket, but he'll be super positive about it the entire time.
I caught you guys going 91, but hey, it's Christmas, so I got you some candy canes. That's a great fucking
line. He has like a thing where it's all like, but seeing as it's Christmas, you can pay these online now. Yeah. He has one of like those things. Yeah. Officer Colin pulls them over for one of the many. One of Boyd's many faults is that he cannot obey the traffic laws at all.
Rule of 3. This movie does it. We've seen plenty of movies that don't follow the rule of 3, and this movie does. So
and that's why it's good.
He catches them on the way to the grandparents' place. He catches them twice on the way back overnight.
Yes.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
But it is on the second one that he says, I pulled you guys over, but I'll let you 3 guys go. And they say, 3 guys? And this is where we found out that during one of his many PTSD freakouts, Clark Duke has hidden himself in one of the porta-potties. So now he is along for the ride.
With the door wide open. He was just driving for how many miles in the back of
it's a bit forced. It's kind of, I'm not really sure how this works out in terms of setting the scene up, but he's now along for the ride too.
They wind up at this one gas station where they see the clerk, who I think was the fucking clerk from No Country for Old Men.
It is the same actor. It is Gene Jones, who, look, if you play probably, let's say it, one of the most famous convenience store clerks in film history, in a scene that everyone fucking knows. The most famous scene from that very famous movie, you kind of can't play a convenience store clerk ever again without assuming that it's the same guy.
I know, right? It's like, fuck, I moved miles away from this after winning that coin toss.
Exactly. When I won that coin toss, it's all like, I'm going to sell this store. I'm going to move somewhere else. That man will never find me.
I mean, fucker. Were Dante and Randall not available for the scene? Jesus.
It could have worked. But no, well, we need a guy of this actor because Boyd talks to this guy and he says, like, hey, I'm a friend of your dad's, and boy, he has nothing but great things to say about you. And it's the first time this movie tries to get a little sentimental, where we find out it's all like they have their issues when they get to each other, they butt heads, but
his dad has nothing but respect and love for him.
He thinks he's a successful guy. He lives in like a big fancy house and everything. And with every new layer that's revealed about Robin Williams, it just makes Joel McHale look worse and worse with every new reveal. But yes, he meets this lovely man and he gives him some free coffee and he says, Merry Christmas. And they get back in there and they drive off.
And they're immediately at each other's throats again.
And then Anton Chigurh walks into the... and says, Merry Christmas, friendo.
Yeah. Oh, no, not again. Also at this convenience store is where we get a reappearance of our hobo Santa character.
Yes, and the music starts getting a little twinkly, and it's at this moment we're all like, is this where we're going? Is there's going to be some magical realism in this movie?
Well, because it's set up earlier where on the car ride there, you know, he's having another flash, like Robin Williams is saying like, Santa Claus, what a crock. His sleigh's got to be going like over 500 kilometers an hour just to make all those trips. Like just doing these drunken rambling real talk of dismissing all things make-believe. Like, what is the purpose of this? I don't quite get it. But then when Joel McHale sees the hobo Santa again, he was like, oh, geez, my sled must have been going 500 kilometers an hour. He's like, wait a second, that's the exact same terms that my dad used. Oh, how could he have possibly known that if he's not magical or the real Santa Claus?
He's just a very drunk man who loves bourbon.
Yeah.
Yes, he
does. And then he says, well, what, did you see the hobo Santa in the washroom, Dad? He's like, I didn't see any hobo Santa in the washroom.
It's just all set up for something that we're not going to pay off. Yes. We do keep cutting back to the house. Now, refresh my memory, because I forget what the setup for this is. Rance... The little competitive eater kid.
Yeah.
There's a moment where he throws a Christmas decoration into the street.
Yeah.
And someone thinks that that's...
Clark
no,
Duke.
they think it's Clark Duke.
Yeah.
They can't find... Candace Bergen can't find Clark Duke. They don't know where he is. He's gone away. And they think that he's laying in the middle of the street. And then
a clearly stuffed Santa Claus.
Yes, and the decoration is run over by two cowboys in a pickup truck. One of them is played by...
Badger from Breaking Bad.
Badger from Breaking Bad. And the other one is played by an actor that I was shocked to learn is not Eric Wareheim.
Oh.
It is just... no, it is an actor named Barack Hardley, but I looked at... As soon as he showed up, I'm all like... Oh shit, of course Eric's in here because Tim's in here. And then the end credits is all like, no, it's just another large man with glasses.
Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, another weird cameo to throw onto the list of this surprisingly large cast.
Maybe he was
in this movie.
He was in the area, I guess.
They were in the movie, yes.
They were in the movie.
They were in the movie.
He's like, really? So they wind up at Joel McHale's house again, but he realized he left his keys in his car, and so in a fit of rage, he picks up a potted plant and throws it through the window, forgetting that that's where they have the hide-a-key. So
Robin Williams starts wandering around this house, and it's a beautiful house, and they mention the fact that he hasn't been there for 8 years. He doesn't invite his family over, which rude to his mom.
Yeah,
I would just say there's kind of a very cutting moment where Robin Williams takes a look at a family photo that Joel McHale has edited him out of, and when they come to blows about that later, we find out the reason that he was edited out is because Joel McHale didn't care for the Steppenwolf T-shirt that he was wearing, or something stupid, and I'm just like, God, you are just the biggest piece of shit. Really, it's I understand it. It's all maybe it's all you hit the bottle, and then you used to smack me around, Dad. It's all no, this is a family portrait, Dad.
Yeah.
Shirt and tie, please. And I'm just all well, you should be disowned by your father. You're just the worst.
His problem was hey, you never sugarcoated anything for me when I was a kid, Dad. And it's well, now you're a grown-up, and you should likely be over this by now, because he seems like a perfectly nice guy. A little rough around the edges, but what ornery old man isn't, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone has to sort of merits the sort of issues that their parents have in life. It's called being an adult. So they look around the house,
and the presents are missing.
Presents are all gone. Where could they be?
So as he's searching through the house, he sees of an entire Afghani family living in their living room.
This is yet another thing that was set up earlier. So Lauren Graham is an ESL teacher. There's a couple of early lines of dialogue. The Mitchellers have a pet dog, and the kid says in the early stages, who's going to look after the dog? And she says, oh, my student Farhad will come, and he will dog sit while we are away. It's a classical case of misunderstanding because he's from Afghanistan and he's learning English. He heard the term house sitting, so of course he translated that as to, I will bring my entire family with me, and we will all sleep on the floor in the living room, even though I'm sure this place has many beds. But and also, who's to say different cultures?
And also unwrap all the gifts that were left behind.
Yeah, that's a bit of a stretch. I think maybe Farhad probably knew a little bit more on that. I was surprised at how not racist this scene was. They're just from Afghanistan. We're not going to make any jokes. I could have sworn Robin Williams had something to say about that, but he keeps his lips sealed.
Joel McHale calls up his wife and he says, like, hey, so we have this family in our house now. And in this part, I'm thinking, like, okay, well, put her on the horn with her student. She can clear all this up. He calls her up basically to chew her out for, like, this whole misunderstanding. And...
it's Boyd. Hi. Is everything okay?
Fine, okay. Farhad is here.
Yeah, I gave him the key so he could feed Dale. You knew that.
No, but his whole family is here. It's like Goldilocks and the 30 Iranians.
Boyd, they're from Afghanistan.
I don't care where they're from. I care why they're here in my house.
Ooh, maybe there was confusion over the translation of house sit. You know, they're an amazing family. They've only been in the country 2 months, so, whatever. Let them have a nice Christmas.
You're not saving the world.
What do you think you're Bono?
I have a law degree. I'm a teacher.
You're supposed to be teaching refugees English, and based on my conversation with this guy, it's not exactly working out, is it?
I'm kind of, once again, on his side.
Wow. Not only are we on different sides of this movie, we're on different sides of this marriage, Jameson.
There are total strangers who have broken into his house.
It's the Christmas season, and they didn't break in. She gave them a key because he was dog sitting, and it's a misunderstanding, and it's the holiday season, and we should be accepting of different cultures.
Now, she said...
What did she say?
She is an English teacher, but she says that she has a law degree. So what the fuck is she doing teaching English in her spare time? And she said, like, oh, it's
a gig economy.
Yeah, it's a gig economy, that's for sure. And she's like, oh, I just wanted them to have a nice Christmas. Do these people celebrate Christmas?
It's the holidays, you know. They're not celebrating. I mean, they're celebrating Christmas this year because they've unwrapped all the presents.
Everything was taken care of.
They're Americans now, so they better start assimilating to the culture and loving baby Jesus.
That's what it means to immigrate to another country. You got to give up your past ways.
They have a fight over the phone, and this is one of my favorite moments of this subplot where the entire movie Candice Bergen has been drinking some sort of red liquid that
Clamato and beer.
Clamato and beer, and she says, like, you know what, I think I will have one of those Clamato and beers. And then she says, okay, one red beer coming up, which I did like. I did like she has her own little name for it.
Yeah.
Yes. But so they've opened all of Douglas's presents except for the only one that Joel McHale really came for, which is a big box in red paper with a big green bow on the outside of it, and that hasn't been touched. He says, you and your family can keep all of the presents.
Everything.
Very understanding on his part,
Yeah.
Because I guess they don't have time to wrap it in the car. So he says, like, I just want that one. So he gets the one big present for Douglas, and they're back on the road. And they're in the car. At this point in time, Clark Duke is sitting along to Patches by Clarence Carter.
Because it's Christmas, you know?
Which is a terrific song. Does this ever happen to you where, so the same week that I watched this movie, coincidentally, was also the week that I learned that the song Patches by Clarence Carter existed. I was listening to a different podcast and they mentioned it and they were singing a part of it. I'm all like, wait, what song are they talking about? So I looked it up and I loved it immediately. And then like 2 days later, it shows up in this movie. It's
spooky.
Isn't that kind of funny how like you're introduced to stuff and then through like osmosis, it just shows up in the media that you're watching? Because it's a great song for him to be singing because it is primarily just narration. It's like, Patches, I'm begging of you, son. Well, Daddy died that day and he said I had to. and to take over the farm. It's very funny, and they turn it off. I don't know. That's a fun moment that Clark Duke has in that movie.
Well, you hear it one more time before the end of the year, and your next one's free. So back at the family household there, the kids are staying up late, and the competitive eater has dared young Doug to eat pickled pickles.
Eat a jar of pickles.
Expired pickles.
That were around in the Nixon administration. I'm pretty sure canned goods last forever. That's the whole
they're
point. They're
preserved. Yeah,
exactly.
They should last forever.
Yeah.
There.
I mean, I know botulism is a thing, but like, I'm pretty sure like pickles keep for basically forever.
Yeah.
Douglas eats an entire jar of pickles, and then for some reason that starts giving him hallucinations.
Yeah. His sister says, "Don't you know eating rotten food causes you to hallucinate?" I'm like, no, you get sick from eating rotten food.
I'm sure there are certain foods that if you eat them rotten, you can have hallucination-type side effects, but I don't think that happens with pickles.
I don't think there's any kind of psychedelics that happen with pickles. But, yeah, this results in young Doug just bouncing off the walls, being hyperactive.
I mean, you give a kid, like, hallucinations, that should lead to, like, more set pieces than this movie has. And ultimately, what it leads to is just this brief moment where a snowman in a snow globe comes to life and speaks in the voice of Jeffrey Tambor.
Because that's who voices the snowman.
Yeah.
Another returning star.
Yeah, but all that happens is the snowman looks at Douglas and says, like, I know you were overhearing those conversations earlier, and guess what? Santa Claus
There ain't no Santa.
There ain't no Santa.
There ain't no Santa Claus.
How does Jeffrey Tambor sound? I immediately slip into Patrick Warburton. That's a tough one. That's a tough one to do, Tambor.
I need a line from Arrested Development. Yeah. No touching.
There's always money in the banana stand. No, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
But yeah, he just says, there's no Santa Claus. Merry Christmas. And he's out of the movie.
He's out of the movie.
Yeah. But, there should be a case where, like, he's hallucinating, so make it like a fucking stop-motion Rankin Bass style hallucination. But no, it's just... Well, we can only afford to animate one thing.
Yeah.
Here's a snow globe that we never established.
It can be like no longer than 2 minutes. That's all the animation budget we have for this movie. So Douglas isn't feeling great about that. The moms are upstairs in the attic drinking vodka and talking about their terrible marriages.
Having like a fucking Texas Mickey of vodka. And, she said, like, well, Robin Williams and I, we had our problems, but we made up for it with sex. And then it's just mentioned that Joel McHale and Lauren Graham haven't had sex in a while. So, there you go.
Because he needs it to be special. It needs to be like the moment.
It's a dramedy.
Yeah. And then Tim Heidecker is wandering around the house with his shirt off. Maybe more. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe he's completely naked. Who's to say? He is a pervert.
The only, happy couple in this entire movie, I guess.
And they're not without their problems either.
No, no.
But you know what? They went to therapy. They're doing the work. So we should be more like them.
So back with the three guys in the car, things get emotional. Joel McHale and Robin Williams have a real heart-to-heart while he's still driving, and they hug while he's driving, and they hit something, and they're worried that it's a deer, but oh no, it's the Hobo Santa again.
It's Oliver Platt, and this is the moment for like 2 minutes I'm all like, is this going to get really dark? Because Robin Williams immediately says, like, I know, like, this abandoned building, we can get, like, a bunch of acid, we can dissolve the body, no one will ever find it.
Yeah, and Joel McHale's like, no, that's crazy. It's way too far from here. Like, we'll never make it into the house in time.
Something about the tone of this movie up until this point made me think, oh my god, they've actually killed Oliver Platt. No, he survives this.
I like this scene because none of the three guys are saying, like, oh my god, we're all going
god, we've taken a human life. It's all like, how are we going to get over it?
How do we get out of this?
Yeah. Even Clark Duke is all like, have you ever dug a foxhole? Because I have, and that's not easy.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of upper body strength. We'll be there for hours, and the ground is cold.
Well, we can burn the body.
And then they're all like, yes, we can burn the body! Oh! And they're all happy about that.
It reminded me of, remember in the movie Out Here where the scene in the bar and the bartender was like, you having a rough day, friend? Well, you can always kill yourself. It was the weirdly dark humor that this movie went down that like, oh, this is interesting.
All I remember about that bar scene from that movie is that there was actual porn in that movie. I mean, that's what Canadians can get away with in their comedies.
Anyways, Hobo...
His name is Hobo Santa.
Hobo Santa
He's never given a name other than that.
Hobo Santa's alive. He comes to.
He's still drunk.
Mm-hmm. And he says, like, well, we got to get to our house before morning. He's like, well, I can take you there.
Oh, yeah. Do they blow a tire or something? Or
Radiator shot or something. I don't fucking know.
They've also hit a human being.
That's right.
So maybe that has something to do with the fact
drive
that
shaft's out of line.
Yeah, it's all fucked up. The car's all fucked up. They can't get there.
So he says, oh, I can get you there in my sleigh. And we're like, the real Santa after all? And no, it's a snowmobile.
Well, it's actually fantastic, too, because Oliver Platt doesn't actually, like, say, hop on my sled and I'll get you there. He actually says nothing. And what's funny is all like, do you have a vehicle to get us there? And then it's just a hard cut to him whipping a tarp off of a snowmobile. And it's some great physical comedy from Oliver Platt, who's really kind of this movie's MVP. Everything he does is pretty funny.
And this is a good time to mention, because we haven't mentioned it before, but this is the second year in a row where we've done a Christmas movie where there's conveniently no snow on the ground. So another one of those, like, shot out of season Christmas movies.
Well, they make mention of that. There's lots of...
Oh, it's another heat wave.
Well, there's lots of references to global warming, of course. And it's because it's trying to be a message movie, yes.
Yeah.
But, yes, there's no snow anywhere until the very end.
Yeah,
but,
and there's also no shots of other houses with Christmas decorations on them.
That's also true. I didn't clock that. Did not clock that. Yeah. It's more Christmassy than Pups Alone. I will give it. That was a vacant cul-de-sac that they shot that movie in. That was one of those communities that hadn't been populated by people yet. It was very obvious. It's on to Oliver Platt's snowmobile, and all four gentlemen are going, and there's sparks flying on the asphalt and everything, and they gotta get home. They gotta get home because of the magic of Christmas. They don't want it to be ruined for their kids, but their kids are waking up and they're running down to the Christmas tree. And now, as someone who's watched this movie recently and more than once, let me tell you my experience with this. So Joel McHale and Lauren Graham, they have two kids. They have a boy and a girl. Wendy and Tim Heidecker, they have, to my understanding, in this early dinner scene, they have the boy, they have Rance, the competitive eater, they have the daughter who's like a YouTuber or whatever. In this scene, Joel McHale's two kids come down, and then the Tim Heidecker's daughter comes in holding the hand of a small boy. And it was at this point in time in the movie, I say to myself, who the fuck is that kid?
Yeah.
Apparently there was a third kid the entire time, and I don't think this movie ever established that until this scene.
You're 100% right, Cass.
Okay, good.
One additional note that I made on this was on Christmas morning, the kids come downstairs, and it's Joel McHale's two kids, Tim Heidecker's daughter, and
a kid we've never seen up until this moment.
What happened to the competitive eater's son? Like, like, was he just not available that day?
So that's all like, we'll just get like any kid, and it's like no one will, no
dragged him off the street,
and all boys look the same. Well, no one will notice.
He's noticeably a couple of years younger and with dark hair. Yes. The other kid's blonde,
and also there's been lots of screen time given to the competitive eater kid, so we remember what he looks like.
The only explanation I can think of is Clark Duke's young Mexican baby all grown up.
It's the magic of Christmas. Well, just to make the situation even more confusing, the actor playing this youngest kid is the real life brother of the kid who plays Douglas.
So they look a little similar.
So it's like they come in and it's all, and then there's like a kid who looks exactly like the other kid, but like younger.
Yeah.
And this kid isn't given any dialogue, but it's just I'm glad you were able to confirm with me because he's not at dinner. He's not in like the scene where Joel McHale is reading like Nightmare Before Christmas or anything like that. He's not in any of the earlier scenes. He just shows up at the end, and it's all like, what? They always had 3 kids.
Yeah.
You're not gonna rewind this to check. Whatever. Shut up.
There was never a Rance.
There was never a Rance. It's always been this kid.
Yeah. So when they hit Santa Claus, that's when the timeline split.
Exactly. Yeah. There was a ripple in time. Yeah, exactly.
So Joel McHale sees that all the kids are up, and he's like, "Oh no, I'm too late. They're looking for presents.
I can't walk in with this gift because then the illusion would be shattered."
Now at this point, this is when Robin Williams should be saying to his son, like, "This is something that I've tried to tell you, is that no, there is no real Santa Claus because it's the parents' job to make Christmas special for their kids. they're the ones who provide who make the miracle
Yeah.
of Christmas mean something to a kid. And now it's your time to.
This should be the moment where Joel McHale finally realizes, oh, my dad actually did love me, and he just loved me in his own way, and he was trying to like instill with me like a set of values that I didn't have the ability to understand at the time.
Yeah,
I was too.
Don't rely on this make believe. Understand that it's the people in your life that make the magic of Christmas the real thing.
Personal story. There was one Christmas where I was like 5 or whatever, and my parents have never been together, but there was one in my early years, my dad would come down to Kelowna and he would celebrate Christmas with my family, and he would stay in our guest room. And there was one Christmas I snuck into my dad's room early so I could sleep in his bed with him, and on like the chair next to him were all of my toys. Were like all of like my stocking stuff and whatever. It took me like a further 2 years to put it together that Santa Claus wasn't real and my dad had wrapped everything. I just didn't associate it. I unwrapped them. I'm all like, oh, that's interesting. My point is, kids are idiots.
Yeah.
Kids don't get shit. You can walk in and be all like, hey, Santa left this on the front lawn, and like, crisis over. Douglas would just be all like, oh, sweet, a present, and he would just open it.
Man, you want to hear a real fucking hokey true story that happened?
Always.
All right. So when I was, I don't know, like early elementary school or something, like maybe just 1 year left where I should be believing in Santa. Too many of the kids in the class were just being like, yeah, Santa's not real. Santa's not real. I distinctly remember thinking to myself, I'm going to believe in Santa for 1 more year.
Right. I'm going to perpetuate the lie, even though I already know the truth.
I'm going to convince myself.
Sure.
Yeah. For my mom, you know?
Yeah. I'm doing it for her. Yeah.
Anyways, so this is the part of the movie where like we're giving ideas to the screenwriter and Joel McHale and Robin Williams on what to say. But what do they do instead? They point to the fucking hobo Santa and be
They
like,
got a Santa right there. They got a perfectly good Santa, a perfectly good used Santa right over here.
disheveled and dirty and probably still
Suffering from a concussion.
Yeah, limping around because he got hit by a fucking
He's got
car.
a little blood on his face, but he's still good.
And he bursts down through the fucking door and just looks panicked and shocked, and the kids are terrified. And
now, I love this little detail that Oliver Platt does, because he has the gift in his hands, and all the kids are looking like mortified that this man has just broken down the door. He first sets his eyes on a bottle of bourbon, which he's been asking for the entire movie. He runs over, drinks the entire bottle of bourbon. You would think that would be enough. He then sees a glass of bourbon that someone else was drinking. He then runs over and finishes that as well, which is just like a hair more pathetic than it would have been if he had just drank the bottle of bourbon. But I love that he does both of those things first before he even addresses any of the children in the room.
He'll break into your house and drink all your dad's booze.
Yes. But he does do the bare minimum for his job.
He's like, all right, you're Doug, eh? Well, Merry Christmas, Dougie, and this one's for you.
This one's for you.
Are you the real Santa? You're damn right I am.
Damn right I am. I'm going to get back to Mrs. Claus. And he manages to get through the entire speech without vomiting everywhere. And he does technically fulfill the illusion.
That's right.
And he stumbles out.
Christmas is safe for another year.
Stumbles out into the Christmas day to who knows where, but the day is saved.
What's Dougie gonna be like as he gets a little older? He's like, Dad, what happened that morning when
Well, if this movie, if the characters in this movie are to be believed and studied, he's probably going to grow up as like a blending of his dad and Robin Williams. Because he's all like...
Santa's real, but he's fucked.
Yeah.
I've seen him. He reeked of booze.
Yeah, he'll never forget that. Yeah. And then this is one final nail in the coffin of just what an absolute fucking moron Joel McHale's character is, because we finally find out what is inside this giant box that he's been lugging around for the majority of the movie, and it's the stupidest fucking reveal of all time. And it really calls into question, like, this man's, like, competency.
I would also say delusion.
Yes, he's completely delusional.
Yeah. He gives his son a sled.
A sled that he had, like, custom made. I think it's implied that he, like, made it himself.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, he
put a lot of work into it.
He put a lot of work into it. He
built
put,
it up
like, Douglas's name on it and everything.
He built it up into his head that this is going to be the greatest gift and the most treasured possession in my young son's life. And the kid's like, but there's no snow this year.
There's no snow. You live in, like a tropical climate.
Yeah.
At what point what did you think was going to happen?
There is
You delusional fuck.
There is a look that Joel McHale gives in this scene that, like, I was like, he's gonna freak out.
Yeah.
This is the moment where he snaps.
This is the Clark Griswold
yeah,
moment.
where he's like kicking presents and.
Except there's no. Because then he's getting mad at his son for not enjoying the present that he gave him, and that's just a bridge too far. That's stepping into, like, unforgivable territory. That's like actual child abuse.
I have become my father. That would be like his moment. Yeah.
Yeah. But then the fun button for this scene is, again, my favorite subplot is Lauren Graham and Candice Bergen have been rooting through the attic, and they're saying, like, let's, in case they don't make it back in time, let's see if there's anything up in the attic that we can wrap up for Douglas just in case. And it's revealed that throughout Joel McHale's childhood, because he had such issues with his dad, he was a little bit of a mama's boy. He loved B. Arthur, and he also loved stuff like he loved macrame, he loved crib, he loved bridge, and they find the board game version of. Is it bridge or cribbage?
One of them.
I don't know. One of them. They had, like, bridge for kids.
Yeah. And Doug is like, awesome!
Douglas loves it!
Radical!
I've always wanted to play bridge! Yeah. And that's a genuinely funny note for the movie to kind of end on.
Yeah, and Joel McHale says to Lauren Graham, like, baby, you're the greatest. And
absolutely. Yeah. And she's all like, after New Year's Eve, we're definitely going to couples counseling because you said some things to me that were quite hurtful over the course of this movie. And then, presumably, Clark Duke remembers he has a son.
His PTSD is not resolved whatsoever.
No, not at all. He's a very sad character.
Yeah, Robin Williams remains kind of a crank, but
they've come to common ground. They have found some sense of understanding, and you get the feeling that they'll probably get invited over to the house at some point in time.
Tim Heidecker and his wife, they're living happily ever
after.
They're great.
They have no problem. Again, they're in therapy. They did the right thing. Yep. Exactly.
And Candice Bergen sobers up. And
yes, just in time.
It's a happy ending for all.
Yeah. It's funny. Like Lauren Graham is not dealing with her hangover as bad as well as Candice Bergen is. You can tell that this is just like normal goings for old Candice Bergen. Like and then the scene ends with Joel McHale trying to pull Douglas on the sled
on
the grassy hill, and Douglas says, "Can we go inside and play bridge now?" And we see a single snowflake fall from the sky, and Robin Williams says, it's probably ash.
Based on nothing.
Based on nothing. And then there is one scene at the end of the credits.
Oh, is there?
Where the two singing cowboys from earlier sing a longer carol, and I guess it's implied that they were on their way to a singing competition. It's just a longer scene where they sing a Christmas carol.
I did not...
and then after that scene is over, there is a short tribute to Robin Williams.
Oh, is there?
It's just like a still image, just like, he made us laugh. Not so much in this movie, but in other films.
You really like this movie. If you were willing to sit through the credits of this.
It's called Fast Forward.
Oh, okay.
I scrubbed to the end. Yes, I know. I read every name. I read every single name.
All right, so anything that we didn't mention here...
I feel like I had something, but I can't remember what it is now.
Well,
go ahead.
All right, let's see if this jogs your memory here. At the Christmas dinner, because Joel McHale and his family are a bunch of vegetarian, vegans, or whatever.
Of course, we got to add that, because that's something else for Robin Williams to roll his eyes at.
I like my meat red and my beer cold.
Yeah.
So instead of having a nice vegetarian option for him, Joel McHale takes a bite of his food and is like, why are there shotgun pellets in here? It's because Robin Williams killed a squirrel with a gun and force-fed it to his son. And
now, this is the one time where I'm on Joel McHale's side. Yeah. Don't feed your son pellets.
He's ready to storm off, and his wife is like, well, we enjoyed our dinner.
Honey, no, we're not leaving.
He fed me a rodent for Christmas dinner.
Well, you're the only one who ate squirrel. Ours was really chicken.
That's 3 strikes on Lauren Graham.
3 strikes on Lauren Graham. You know what?
I'm not on.
You know what? Team Boyd all the way.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, during the ending credits, there's kind of like this nice thing where when they introduce the cast, they show photos of the actors' actual childhood of them in Christmas.
Yeah.
And I thought that was nice, and they do it for every actor except for Jeffrey Tambor, who is just the snowman. He's just the snowman, just still image of the snowman. Because,
to remind you who we played in the movie.
Because as we all know, Jeffrey Tambor was born as an old bald man, so he would have no Christmas childhood pictures.
Well, he was always God in the annual living portrait display. Yeah,
exactly.
So
yes,
better than Santa.
All right. Merry friggin' Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
I feel like we already know the answer to this. Jameson, did this movie have a certain Christmas something, or is it just a whole big lump of coal for you?
No, I thought this was quite weird. I didn't get the warm, fuzzy feelings that I could get from a Christmas comedy classic, like, say, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Yeah, I didn't have a ton of laughs to this, and I just found myself just getting befuddled very often.
I thought it really could have been worse. I honestly thought it could have been worse. And honestly, now that we've mediated this and we've like talked about everything that happened in it, I obviously see its faults a lot more. But for some reason,
just struck a chord with you.
I mean, this came out right on the tail end of Robin Williams passing away, and I certainly looked at all of the reviews because it's all like, there's a couple more Robin Williams movies to come, and no one had anything good to say about this movie from any of the sources that I read, and so I had like lower than low expectations, and I guess I was largely pleasantly surprised. I don't know. I thought this movie was okay. It's not a Christmas classic. I'm certainly not going to watch it ever again. But we've on this very show, Jameson, we've watched far worse Christmas entertainment than this.
Also, I didn't check out any reviews before I watched this, so I don't know if maybe that set any kind of expectations. If I just anticipated it to be, I didn't want it to be bad.
No,
I didn't want to dislike it.
It's full of actors that I largely like, and they're all doing something, and there's like enough, I don't know, quasi-interesting shit happening in here that like I was never bored. Like it chugs along in like an hour and a half. It's over quick. I don't know. That's if that's like the worst thing you can say about a movie, then happy holidays.
And much like the last several of our Christmas episodes, there's enough material here for us to talk about for an entire episode of a podcast.
As evidenced by the fact that we are now at the end of this one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Couldn't have come soon enough.
Well, there we are. That was A Merry Friggin' Christmas, directed by...
And a Merry Friggin' Christmas to you, Kaz.
Well, friggin'...
fuck you.
A Dern Tootin' Hanukkah... Nope. Abandoned joke. This movie was directed by Tristan Shapiro. If you like this episode, please check out our back catalog. We have lots of fun holiday episodes that we can talk about, where we talk about Christmas at Wonderland, or Pups Alone, or
Home for the Holidays,
or Pottersville, if you want to go all the way back to the first season. Yes, we do all of this. And and we've got another Christmas film in the chamber, starring a couple of sitcom actors, and get your brains cranking.
Who could it
possibly be? The answer will be disappointing. We'd like to thank Eddie Lamb for his fantastic theme music, and also let me take the opportunity to say, be nice to Eddie Lamb if you see him out there in the world. I don't know the details of the story, but apparently Eddie Lamb went on a podcast recently, and someone did some gotcha journalism to him, and I don't know the details, but we're on Team Eddie over here, so be nice to Eddie. He's a Vancouver institution.
It was a disgruntled former bandmate of his that is actually going around bad-mouthing a ton of people that he used to work with.
Wow. Well, there we go.
Yeah.
Big lump of coal to that particular person. Santa, you put this unnamed man on the naughty list. I don't know who this person is, but I'm going to add in a big bleep to make it sound like I do know who it is. So yeah, make sure you send some coal to. You can follow us on all the social media, where you can follow us on Facebook, you can follow us on Instagram, you can follow us on X. Why would you want
for now,
to?
I'll
for
say.
now, yeah, it's not looking great. Will we be on Blue Sky in 2015? You'll have to. It's 2025. Wow.
Will we be on a social media that
didn't exist? That didn't exist until
before the show existed.
Yeah, who knows?
We will.
Who's
Early
to say?
adopters are predating. This,
Yes,
yeah.
and we are of course still on MySpace. We would like to thank. No, we've already
Follow
thanked-
us on GeoSites.
Yes.
Get that counter going.
GeoCities, yes. Follow us on Geocache.
You can interact with us on Club Penguin. Actually, no.
No, you cannot. No. You can follow me on an actual site that exists right now. You can follow me on Letterboxd. I'm Kaz Lesgard.
You can subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can see all my cartoons. My name's Jameson Rafter. And I'll leave you with this quote from Robin Williams, Kaz. You ain't never had a friend like me.
You know what? You know what, Jameson? That is 100% true. I have never had a friend quite like you.
Yeah.
And I would like to think...
Is that in a good way?
And I would like to think you've never had a friend like me.
No.
Patches! I'm begging of you, son!
All right, later.
Oh, slow down, Bill. Save some for us.
I'm depending on your son.